Good evening, you're watching Estuary News, I'm Hugh Richards. In the headlines tonight, a new massive offshore wind farm off Lincolnshire, NatWest closes its doors in Brigg, and a man is arrested in Lincoln as part of an anti-terrorism investigation. And later in tonight's programme, I'll be talking to Keith Ellis about the Scunthorpe Male Voice Choir's upcoming concert, and before that, Professor Alison Wolfe on vocational training. A new offshore wind farm off the coast of Lincolnshire has been switched on today. Racebank will deliver power to over 500,000 homes via 91 wind turbines. The company behind it, Ørsted, is expanding its operations. This and future projects could boost the local economy. Fred McNamara brings us more.
Generating power to over 500,000 homes and boosting the local economy are just some of the aims of the new Racebank offshore wind farm here in northeast Lincolnshire, and it's all going to be maintained by this service operation vessel. Racebank is capable of generating 573 megawatts of green electricity from 91 wind turbines. It's Ørsted's 10th UK-based project and the first since renaming itself from Dong.
It's actually the first project to use blades manufactured just over the river here in Hull by Siemens Gamesa. So we've taken the turbine blades from that factory and installed them on the project. And it's actually also the first project to use one of these vessels, a service operations vessel. So because the project is further from shore, we need a bigger vessel to get there and to stay out there for, as I say, 2 weeks at a time to operate it. So quite a number of innovations and firsts on this project. This is the Energy Estuary as christened, and we're a very big part of that. It's the third wind farm that we will be operating in this region from our Grimsby base here. We've got another 2 either in construction or in pre-planning for construction, and then a further one in planning at this stage. So yeah, I mean this region is becoming a real centre for renewable energy technology, and we're a big part of that.
The concept started just before we changed over to Ørsted while we were still under the construction phase of the wind farm with our other department, our EPC, engineering projects and construction. While they were putting the turbines in the ground, if you like, so to speak, we were in there trying to keep them the momentum going with the maintenance cycles and upskilling the technicians, getting familiar with the transfer methods and things like that. And now we're across the line with the first for Ørsted SOV in the UK. So it's a new concept, it's a different way of working slightly. We can react very quickly. We're undertaking the service campaign on the turbines now, the annual service. We're doing that, we're breaking new ground because of the SOV and because of some really good lean methodologies used by Siemens. When we look across the site is going to triple in size. The construction phase is almost finished for the East Coast hub. So again, more positions becoming available for local people and for local industries, but also the spin-off from that, the companies that support us locally, whether it be catering or whether it be coming and fixing the boilers in the buildings, or people are looking after our PPE, doing the annual inspections on it. All those things for the vessels. These are all helping keep the local community and the local economy driven, if you like.
It's a local project, but it is part of a sort of a global movement towards renewable energy. I mean, our company, Ørsted, is involved all over Northern Europe, but now also in the United States and also in the Far East, in Taiwan. And what we actually hope is that the UK PLC, if you like, and the Humber cluster, as we call it, can take part not only in projects in the local area, but increasingly in that sort of global business. So we're really looking forward to this part of the world being a big part of the global shift towards renewable energy.
With this state-of-the-art vessel and plans for site expansion, Racebank Offshore Wind Farm hopes to cement North East Lincolnshire's place on the global scene of renewable energy. From McNamara, Estuary News.
NatWest Bank in Brigg closed today. The closure comes after it was revealed that fewer than 100 customers visited the branch every week. There has been a 19% drop in transactions at the site since 2012. Mark Sudbury has been appointed as a community banker for NatWest and will hold drop-in sessions at the town's Tourist Information Centre on Thursdays from the end of the month. It leaves just 2 banks now operating in the town, Lloyds and Barclays. Lincolnshire Police have supported officers from Counter-Terrorism Policing North East to arrest a man in connection with an investigation into offensive communications. The 35-year-old man from South Lincoln has been arrested on suspicion of sending a hoax noxious substance, conspiring and soliciting to commit murder, and sending letters conveying a threatening message. Searches have been taking place at a residence in South Lincoln and an office building in the city centre. The suspect has been taken to a police station in West Yorkshire for questioning. A meeting to decide the future of Hull's music service will be held tonight. It follows a decision made by an academy trust which recently decided to withdraw support and set up its own service. Thousands of children in schools across the city use the service. More than 3,000 people have signed a petition calling for the decision to be reversed. Now, Professor Alison Wolfe, Baroness Wolfe, is currently the Sir Roy Griffiths Professor of Public Sector Management at King's College London. She is the author of the Wolfe Report into Vocational Education. The 2011 report still influences education policy. Lady Wolfe was in our area recently on a visit to the Grimsby Institute. I asked about the future of vocational education. Alison, thanks so much for coming in.
You're very welcome.
Very short notice, I know, thanks to the British transport infrastructure. I want to talk about education, if I may, because it's one of your specialities. I know only one, and there are all sorts of other things I could exploit you for. But why is it that long before your report in 1963, Newsom reported that half of our future were non-academic pupils in schools? Why is it that after however many years of compulsory state-financed education, half the British people are non-academic? Why aren't we teaching them properly?
I'm not sure that half of them are non-academic, actually, because I'm never really quite sure what it is to be academic as opposed to being good at jumping over exam hurdles. But what I do think is true is that we have created a system which even more markedly divides the world up into people who are clearly on a track heading for university and pretty clearly not on a track heading for university. And that then has a washback effect right the way down through the schools. So you measure your life by whether you get the magic GCSEs or whether you get the UCAS points. I actually think that's appalling. I think we have got actually worse about it since then rather than better. It means that a lot of people end up with a far lower opinion of their own abilities than they should have and far fewer opportunities than they should have. And I think it's been because, at least to a considerable extent, because of an obsession with increasing higher education capacity, which means that governments have consistently just not really thought about the rest of the system.
But why in that case, you say it starts very early, that people are on the university track or non-university track. Is that something that's inbuilt, that people have
it's not.
Analytical minds, critical thinking, a field of reference and the articulacy to express it? Or that they just don't? If that's not inbuilt, then it must be something to do with the education. So why is it that so many people don't have those gifts from the education?
Okay, I think some people are naturally more inclined to be interested in arguments, interested in unpacking things and putting them together. But I think a lot of it is do you go to a school that's good at that? Do you have a family background that's good at that? But of course, the reality is that quite a lot of what we do in universities is not academic in that sense at all, and there's no particular reason why it should be. Everything to do with medicine is as much practical as it is anything else. Everything to do with engineering is highly practical. It's not sort of super analytic. You don't go and learn how to build a bridge from first principles. That's not actually how it works at all. So my sense is...
I hope engineers do,
well, no, they don't. I don't mean they're not competent, but they don't sit down and think about how to build a bridge. They learn how bridges have been built that work, and they build out from that. It's a very different way of doing it.
Well, that's just the difference between empirical and conceptual, isn't it?
But that's exactly the difference that you just gave me. You implied that higher education was all about being conceptual and analytical, and then when there were the half of the people who weren't like that.
But why are there half of the people who don't know the difference between conceptual and analytical?
Well, are there? My suspicion is there might be 90% who don't know the difference between analytical and conceptual.
Quite, but why? How have we failed?
Well, I think the answer is that, going back to the question about why have we got 50-50, I don't think it's to do with innate abilities. I think it's entirely to do with the structure of the education system. And in other countries the ratios are different and the alternatives are different. So I don't think there's anything set in stone whatsoever about this 50-50.
In terms of providing vocational educational training, are we right to do that at all? Because that's just turning people into economic units, giving them an opportunity to make money and to have wealth. But why bother to have money or have wealth if you don't have the education to enjoy the ride as you go along, to take delight in life?
I'm going to quote the great Pearl Buck at you. Baby, I've tried rich and I've tried poor, and believe me, rich is better. So the answer is, again, it's not an either or. I personally, I've written about this a lot, think we have become obsessed with education as an engine of higher earnings and growth. That we are far more obsessed with that than our predecessors, who were a lot less rich. On the other hand, it is also true that most people who decide to stay in education, to take a course, whether it's because they want to become a fine chef or an engineer or a nurse or whatever, are nonetheless interested in having a job at the end of it and an income at the end of it. And again, the danger is, and I really think we've fallen into this, the danger is that we make that the only thing education is about. And that's sort of daft. So we'll educate to get richer and then we'll be rich enough to educate people more in order to get richer, in order to educate people more in order to get richer. It's daft. It's completely daft. But I don't think it's either or.
Alison, thank you so much for coming in.
Okay.
Welcome back. You're watching SG News. Still to come tonight, Jack brings us a roundup of all the latest sports news from across the region, and Keith Ellis will be telling me about Scunthorpe Male Voice Choir's imminent concert. Hundreds of artefacts are being removed from Hull's Arctic Corsair. It's part of a project that will see a major restoration of the trawler as she moves to a new berth at the North End shipyard later in the year. Our reporter Jack Muscat brings us a story.
Hundreds of artefacts are being delicately moved from the Arctic Corsair in Hull. The items are being placed in temporary storage ahead of the ship's move to a temporary home to be restored. A team of volunteers have been tasked with the painstaking job of cataloguing the hundreds of items on board, as volunteer Margaret Webster explains.
I've been logging the stuff, giving every piece of equipment, every loose item that's not screwed down has a number now, and it's been labelled, and then we've carefully packed it away in boxes. Doesn't sound very taxing, but it all needs doing. I've absolutely loved it. It's a pleasure, but it's also an honour. I feel quite privileged to be here doing it. I really do. It's a piece of history, isn't it?
At the moment, I'm repairing some of the rotten deck, not with timbers, but with concrete, just so it's safe for volunteers and the public to walk around safely until such time as it's had its makeover. It's in reasonable condition, but you can imagine she's been afloat since 1960 in all weathers and all sorts of seas, so she's tired, but she deserves all the TLC she's going to get.
A veteran of the Cod Wars, the Arctic Corsair was rammed by an Icelandic gunboat in the 1970s. After a layup of 7 years, she achieved a record-breaking return to fishing in 1986, before finally being laid up in the winter of 1987. The vessel opened to the public in 1999 and has since attracted in excess of 20,000 visitors. In order to keep welcoming such a high number of people, the ship needs shoring up. So what kind of items and artefacts have the volunteers discovered on board?
A suit worn by one of the fishermen, which he had a fight in the gutter with, and I've packed it away very carefully to be fetched out again, just so that the Corsair can be moved and redone. And then they're bringing all the stuff back again, so it can all go back in the same place.
There are some very personal items up in the radio shack. There are even old telegraphs sending birthday greetings home to wives, and trawlermen receiving birthday greetings from the wives who were on shore. Charts showing skippers' own identification marks, which were good fishing grounds. It's a treasure trove. It's what made Hull. It's what made Hull what it is today, or what it used to be. The biggest fishing port in the world, and it's a tribute not just to the efforts of modern day people, to all the trawlermen who lost their lives as well, and the families.
And with such a fascinating and eventful history behind her, the Arctic Corsair is fondly thought of in the hearts and minds of the volunteers.
It's a floating museum, and when she's finished, you'll be able to go in the cabins, you'll be able to see sea boots, socks, the suits that the trawlermen wore when they came ashore and became half-crown millionaires for a few days. All the artefacts on the ship are pretty much original. The time scale we've not yet had confirmed, but there will be a tender going out for repairs. Whichever dry dock wins that should regard it as an honour. And then she's going to move to a permanent, purpose-built heritage park where she'll be there for the rest of her days.
Once the restoration is complete, the Arctic Corsair will be returned to her former glory, representing a permanent reminder of a past industry which once defined the city of Hull. Jack Muscat, Estuary News.
I'm joined now by Keith Ellis, chairman of the Scunthorpe Male Voice Choir, to tell me about their imminent concert. Keith, welcome. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Let's get the details sorted out here. Where and when will this concert be?
Well, this concert is on Saturday evening at 7 o'clock at St Lawrence's Church, which is more or less across the road from the railway station and next to the museum, so it's very easy to find.
And anyone can turn up, not selling tickets in advance, it's turn up and...
It is indeed, yes. A lot of our concerts we have tickets for, but and there are a lot of concerts like this one where we encourage people just to come in. It's free entry, but I always tell the audience they can't get out until they've paid to get out. But no, it's a retiring collection, as we call it, where people put in really what they think it's worth, and you know, it works very well.
They put in however well they think you've sung.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's a little bit of a special venue for you, this one, though, isn't it?
Yes, St Lawrence's. Well, there are two reasons, really, why this is a special concert for us. This particular concert at St Lawrence's, we're raising money for the Lindsay Lodge Hospice in Scunthorpe, which we've done many times before. So we really need as many people as we can get there for that reason. But also, when the choir first started out in 1924, it began as a male quartet. 4 men just got together and decided to sing things, and it gradually grew and it grew and it grew. And this all happened at St Lawrence's Church. So it really takes us back to 94 years ago, you know, that when this first started, and we're still going strong today.
Well, it was started off with 4 people, 4 male voices. How many do you have now?
At the moment, we have 36 singers in the choir. There are times when it's been less. In fact, the choir first went off to the United States with only 15 singers way back in the early 90s. And then when I joined the choir 26 years ago, there were 70-something in the choir. So it seems to go up and down. And it's very difficult these days, it seems, to get people who are of a youngish age to join the choir. And that's what we're trying to do.
When you say youngish, you mean around 40?
Well, yes, certainly. That would be absolutely ideal.
So you're always looking for new singers. If people would like to come and join, or at least audition for you, how should they get in contact? We have a website.
There's a telephone number on the contact page of the website, or they can get in touch with me on email or by phone, and we'd be pleased to see them. In fact, we had an article in the local paper last week, and we've had 2 inquiries as a result of that who have rung and said, you know, we'd like to come and have a look and see how it pans out, what's it's all about.
Fairly quickly, what's on the programme for Saturday night?
We always do a really varied programme, and all concerts are a bit different. But this Saturday night, it's going to be an upbeat concert. Goldfinger from James Bond, the Vicar of Dibley, those magnificent men in their flying machines. We have a piece of Handel, last year Cheer Pianga, which people probably won't know the title, but they will recognise the melody. That's a lovely piece. Good old Welsh hymn tunes always.
You reminded me of some of my favourite films, Keith. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Here's Jack with all the sports news.
There's been another big departure from Hull City. It's been announced in the last 24 hours that key midfielder Seb Larsson is to leave the Tigers to join Swedish side AIKA Solna. The 33-year-old turned down a new deal at City to return to his homeland, dealing a fresh blow to head coach Nigel Adkins' plans for next season. It brings to an end the Swedish international's 10-month spell at Hull, where he scored 2 goals in his 40 appearances. Larsson joins the likes of Abel Hernandez, Alan McGregor and captain Michael Dawson in leaving the KCOM Stadium this summer. It's looking like Adkins will need a major rebuild of his squad during pre-season, with the lone trio of Michael Hector, Ola Aina and Fikeo Tomori all returning to parent club Chelsea. In other football news, Grimsby Town have revealed the new home and away kits the players will be wearing next season. The Mariners have stuck with the traditional black and white striped home design that's synonymous with the club. However, the players will be sporting a striking new red and black design on their trebles next season. Both the home and away shirts used next season are to be embossed inside the collar, commemorating Grimsby Town's 140th year as a football club. So a new look for Town next season, but will Michael Jolly have a competitive budget to work with next season?
Well, that phrase gets thrown around, competitive budget. We've got a budget. It's probably not the highest budget in the league, but probably nor is it the lowest. So what we need to make sure we do is we spend the resources that we've got as wisely as we can and make the best use of the resources that we've got. And I think that's the art of management. You know, somebody like John Coleman last year did a fantastic job at Accrington, and I would imagine they didn't have the largest budget in the league. So we've got to make sure that we do a good job with the resources we've got.
And in Rugby League, the new chief executive of Super League has revealed radical proposals that would affect both whole clubs. Robert Elston has announced that the league will scrap the current Super 8s format and switch to a one-up, one-down system from next season. Promotion and relegation is currently decided by merging the Super League's bottom four with the Championship's top four after 23 regular season games. After playing each other once, the top three go up, while a 4th versus 5th playoff completes the quartet. Hull Kingston Rovers are currently second bottom of the table, and under the proposed new rules would be safe if in the same position next season. However, under the current rules, it looks highly likely that the Robins will be playing against the Championship top four when the league splits up. And that's all from me with today's sport. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much, Jack. That's it for tonight, I'm afraid. If you have a story for us or any other reason to contact us, then you are very welcome to get in touch with Facebook or Twitter pages, or email news@estuary.tv, or phone Grimsby 01472315553. And at 5:30 we're streaming live on Facebook. Always leave a comment. We can get it on the programme. Or you can write to us at Estuary TV, Nuns Corner, Laceby Road, Grimsby, North East Lincolnshire, DN 345BQ. Until tomorrow, from everybody here, good evening.